Hello, I'm Ayse Suberker and welcome to the special edition of Strait Talk from the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. The divided island is marking a special milestone this week, the 50th anniversary of a peace operation that sought to protect the Turkish minority. Join me as I revisit that crucial day and the legacy it has left. July 20th, 1974.
İleri!
Tensions are running high in Cyprus following a Greek-led military coup that sought to unite the ethnically diverse island with mainland Greece. Turkish Cypriots, having already endured years of attacks from the Greek majority, feared the worst. To prevent further atrocities, Türkiye launched a peace operation to protect the Turkish minority. Troops landed on the island's north to secure strategic locations. In the operation's second phase, Türkiye gained control of the northern part of its biggest city, Lefkoşa, and established the current borders we see today. Overall, nearly 40,000 Turkish troops participated. Many of the victims of Greek Cypriot attacks lie here at the Tashkent cemetery, not far from where the operation began. Behind me are the names of the victims who were killed in attacks from Greek Cypriots during the 74 operation. Even today, being the sole supporter in a time of need, the Turkish and Trnc flags stand side by side at all times in a show of solidarity. Enes Kolat, who was part of a special commando unit during the 74 operation, remembers that fateful day.
Burada yatan insanlar masum, günahsız.
These were innocent people, including 6-month-old babies and 90-year-old elders who were slaughtered. This place represents a shame in human history. Not only this place in particular, many places, many villages had the same experience.
Köyleri de aynı akıbeti yaşamış.
Why is this area so important? What are your recollections from the day that the peace operation started?
Harekatın ilk günü hatırladığım.
On the first day of that operation, I recall everything being normal. The soldiers were sent to the island through sea, air, and land that day. While that was happening, the Greeks were silent. We were expecting more resistance from them. As night approached, the Greeks started a fight by opening 4 or 5 fronts at the same time. They started fighting with full strength. They had the advantage in terms of numbers, ammunition, and intelligence, and they also knew the place better than us. We saw that tough hours were ahead of us. After sunset that day, everything turned into hell. What his troops were going to do, aiming to make it through the night safe and sound. That night was like hell, but we knew that if we made it to morning, then we were going to win this fight.
İstihbarat bilgileri çok üstün dolayısıyla.
So, what did this peace operation achieve, you think?
Çok şey elde ettik.
We won so many things at the end of this operation. Ataturk said, "Be careful about Cyprus. It is the window through which Turkey is reaching the wider world." That's why Cyprus is not only a piece of land. For Turkey, Cyprus is a harbor of security. Turkey's police station in the region. In the middle of the Mediterranean, Cyprus is an aircraft carrier, in my opinion. It is in the heart of the Middle East and Mediterranean. If we are strong today in the Eastern Mediterranean, it is thanks to the Cyprus peace operation in 1974. Ataturk pointed that out a century ago. If we follow his light, I believe we can solve many problems we face today.
O ışıkla yürürsek zaten çok şeyleri çözebileceğimize inanıyorum ben.
After Cyprus was granted independence in 1960, a treaty was signed to clearly define the island's political future. Article 1 and 4 were key, which banned Cyprus from participating in any political or economic union with any other state, and ensured guarantor powers rights to take action to re-establish the current state of affairs in Cyprus. Ankara says its peace operation was to enforce these articles. By 1983, the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus was established, but its newfound statehood wouldn't be easy. Numerous UN Security Council negotiations failed in addition to the 2004 Annan Plan, which sought the island's reunification, and the Cyprus Conference in 2017. I spoke with the UN Cyprus spokesperson Aleem Siddique to discuss the organization's peacekeeping efforts and if there is hope to end the conflict.
The United Nations peacekeeping force has had a presence on the island since 1964, when the Security Council deployed the peacekeeping force to prevent tensions between the opposing forces and to prevent fighting between the Greek and Turkish Cypriot communities on the island. Our role was expanded in 1974 following the Turkish military intervention on the island, which saw the creation of the buffer zone. And our peacekeepers have been patrolling the entire length of the buffer zone that dissects the island since 1974. We also have a team of UN police officers who work closely with the communities who live and work inside the buffer zones. So our role on the island is to provide a foundation of peace and stability for a political settlement to be found.
So after decades of negotiations in trying to solve the Cyprus issue, the last round of talks in Crans-Montana in 2017 collapsed. Has anything changed since then? I mean, what could you tell us about the current situation?
The UN Secretary General had 6 months ago appointed a personal envoy to lead on those efforts to find a mutually acceptable way forward. The envoy has just last week submitted her report to the Secretary General, which the Secretary General is currently considering, and before he decides on his next step.
So Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Greek Prime Minister Mitsotakis recently met for the second time in less than 3 months. At the NATO summit in Washington, they said they want to keep up the pace of this positive agenda between their countries. So my question is, could Turkey and Greece's efforts to normalize relations help spur both sides on the island to sit at the negotiations table?
We're very encouraged by the warming of relations between Turkey and Greece, and we hope that this will have a positive impact on the ground here in creating the conducive conditions for a resumption of the talks that we would all like to see.
So how deep do differences run between the south and the north?
Well, at the moment, I think it's clear to see that there are differences of opinion on both sides, but there is reason for hope. Here on the ground, we are doing a lot of work with grassroots communities. We are bringing young people together. We are bringing women's groups together. When I see the young people coming together to discuss common problems and find common solutions, working together, we see the mistrust and the lack of confidence between the sides melt away.
So how have the balances changed on the island since the Greek Cypriot sector voted down the Annan plan, which envisaged the reunification of the island 20 years ago?
What the UN is asking for is the political will to redouble our efforts to secure a solution. That is what we're hearing from people on both sides of the island who are frustrated with the status quo and want to see a resumption of the talk.
UN Chief Mission in Cyprus, Colin Stewart, warned earlier in July that if attempts at peace talks failed, there would be consequences in the buffer zone. What does he mean by that?
That when the leaders are not talking at the political negotiation table, then that quite often translates into mistrust of the other side, fear of the other side, which quite often translates into insecurity inside the buffer zone. Increase in violations by the military forces on either side of the buffer zone. And I think the Secretary General's report makes very clear that we have seen increased militarization of the buffer zone by both sides in recent years.
So is there going to be a need to finally resolve this issue, or do you think both sides on the island and regional powers prefer the status quo?
The longer that we go without a solution, the harder it will become to find a solution. And after 60 years, that's exactly what our experience is showing us, that with the passage of time, it's becoming harder, not easier. And that's why we have an opportunity now. Secretary General is calling for both sides to redouble their efforts, and we hope that we will see a resumption of the talk in the near future.
No other town symbolizes the island's frozen conflict more than Maraş, or Varosha, as it's known in Greek. Located on the eastern Cypriot coast, Turkish forces gained control of the area during the second phase of the 74 operation, when the town's occupants fled. A 1984 UN Security Council resolution stated that the area could only be resettled by its original inhabitants. Without any agreements between the Turkish and Greek Cypriot sides, Maraş would continue to be a ghost town. For decades, this once bustling resort town has laid dormant, becoming a ghostly relic and eerie reminder of the divisions that continue to this day. These abandoned buildings have come to symbolize how far this island still has to go before reaching a lasting settlement. But starting back in 2020, the town was partially reopened to tourists, with TRNC officials saying the area can't stay closed for another several decades. Turkish Cypriots overwhelmingly voted in a 2004 referendum to unify the island, but the Greek side rejected that proposal. Legally, the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus has abided by the 1983 UN Security Council resolution, as Maraş continues to have no permanent residents. But its tourism potential and the island's north as a whole is too big to ignore. After reopening a small part of Maraş, TRNC officials repeatedly said Greek Cypriot property owners were welcome to invest, but the Greek side has resisted those overtures. So how important is tourism to the island's future? I sat down with the president of the TRNC's Chamber of Commerce, Turgay Deniz, about what was at stake.
As you know, Turkish Cypriot Chamber of Commerce has been founded in 1958. So since we have been founded before the Republic of Cyprus Foundation, we have the international recognition. So we have the capacity worldwide. There is no isolation on the chamber. So that we are all trying to get rid of this isolation on the island.
What kind of activities you're carrying out?
We have got direct relations with all the institutions and also with the governments, foreign governments. So we are trying to keep them understanding the situation, that the isolations which we are facing is against the human rights as well. Because as we are the business people in trade, we know that the trade must have no limits around the world.
So how has your country's observer status in several international organizations like the OTS and OIC helped it forge closer ties with member states, both from Central Asia and the Middle East so far?
We have had very good relations, but unfortunately, until now, we have not received any investments for Northern Cyprus. Nowadays, we are in the Turkish Republic's countries, commercial and industrial organization, and we are acting as much as we can. And first of all, for Northern Cyprus, we are talking about the tourism potential. And also, as you know, we have universities, 20 universities in North Cyprus, with having 5,000 academics, more than 100,000 of students are studying here.
Could you talk to us about these opportunities? I mean, besides Türkiye, are there any countries which are interested, at least, investing here?
You know, as a country, we don't have, but as a personal foreigners, we are receiving a lot of investors.
So the new terminal building of the Ercan Airport was inaugurated on the 49th anniversary of the Cyprus peace operation last year. What has the opening of this new terminal meant for Northern Cyprus's connectivity with the rest of the world?
For the time being, we are receiving around 2 million tourists. But the new airport capacity is for 10 million tourists. So we are ready for the rest 20 years. We have made the investment, ready for the next 20 years, which is now With this airport, we have the investment opportunity of new hotels in northern Cyprus.
So, Mr. Deniz, over the past year, both US and British lawmakers have visited the island. Do you think that these specific two countries could open up more economic opportunities with your country soon?
Of course, because we have the problem only with the European Union, because they are making the isolation for us. Because as they promised in 2004 during Annan Plan, direct trade is still not in rule. Only what we are doing with the European Union is the green line trade, which allows the selling of the products from north to Cyprus, and our chamber is authorized for this trade. Regarding the USA and UK, I hope in the near future we will have the capacity to make exports and other investments on the island.
The drive to get the TRNC more global recognition was on full display as President Ersin Tatar attended a summit of the Organization of Turkic States in Shusha earlier this month. Tatar stressed the event could be a significant step towards the TRNC's global recognition, adding his country could act as a major port for Turkic states. Ankara has been its biggest supporter.
2022 yılındaki
The decision to grant observer status to the TRNC at the Samarkand summit in 2022 not only showed the Turkish Cypriots the spirit of solidarity of the Turkish world, but also allowed the TRNC to increase its visibility in the international arena.
KKTC'nin
I sat down with the special advisor to the TRNC's president Gökhan Güler about the North's aspirations for greater international recognition.
Bugün Kuzey Kıbrıs Türk Cumhuriyeti 50 yılın sonunda geldiği noktayı
50 years after the peace operation, today we can say loud and clear that the TRNC's presence has grown in the international arena. As you know, Federation talks came to a dead end in 2017 because of the uncompromising stance of the Greek side over the past 50 years. So the only solution left is a two-state solution. The fact that TRNC President Ersin Tatar suggested a two-state solution during the meetings of the 5+1 under UN auspices at Geneva in 2021 made the TRNC's presence grow in the international arena. Gaining observer status at the OTS, its position in the OIC and ECO made the TRNC more visible. All this increased the number of international visits the TRNC officials are able to make. The TRNC's sovereign and equal international status is gaining recognition through its presence at these organizations. And I can say that this presence will help the TRNC in its quest for recognition.
ve dolayısıyla Kuzey Kıbrıs Türk Cumhuriyeti'nin ortaya koyduğu
So the OTC sees itself as a global platform that will address everything from security, energy, trade to cultural connectivity. What specific areas of cooperation can the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus and OTS work on specifically right now?
bu konuda Kuzey Kıbrıs Türk Cumhuriyeti
In March, the TRNC attended the OTS's extraordinary summit in Ankara, where it gave its take on natural disasters. Also, at this month's OTS summit, held in the recently liberated city of Shusha, the TRNC shared its opinions on transportation and energy. I must emphasize that since the 11th of November 2022, the TRNC and its establishments, including its Court of Account, Jurisdiction, Interior Ministry, Economy Ministry, are part of many structures within the OTS. We can see the benefit of our presence in these organizations' meetings in terms of our recognition.
içerisine girmiştir.
So could you talk to us about the significance of the Susha, the informal Susha summit of the OTS, which took place earlier this month? What were the main highlights for the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus? What kind of messages were delivered?
Öncelikle şunu ifade etmek isterim ki Kuzey Kıbrıs Türk Cumhuriyeti
The TRNC president had the chance to express the TRNC's just cause with the latest developments to the heads of states at the OTS summit in Shusha. Especially during its meeting with other foreign ministers at Shusha, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan called on OTS member states to open economy offices and to enhance ties with the TRNC in the areas of education and tourism and to make more frequent visits. We regard Fidan's remarks as important developments. We've seen the difference between the OTS's informal summit at Ankara and the summit at Shusha. At this year's summit, we saw the ties getting warmer. Leaders of OTS member countries had long discussions with TRNC officials, both during the summit and the sideline meetings.
Arttırılması gerektiğini.
So do you feel the Turkic states of the OTS could grant recognition to the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus in the not too distant future?
Ya tabii ki süreç içerisinde bunun ben yaşanacağına
I believe OTS member states will recognize the TRNC in the near future. It was hard to even imagine that the TRNC would be an observer state at the OTS. We used to see these kind of things as a utopic dream. Now we feel very happy that the TRNC is an observer state at the OTS. I strongly believe OTS member states and other states too will recognize the TRNC and support us in our just cause. I also hope that they will express this support in the international arena.
Bunun mümkün olabileceğini öngörüyorum.
The stakes couldn't be higher for the Eastern Mediterranean. The divided island sits on vast reserves of natural gas and hydrocarbons. Starting in 2023, regional countries put aside years of tensions in hopes of tapping the area's energy potential. Then Israel's war on Gaza began, appending any potential cooperation. The conflict is also at risk of spreading after Hezbollah directly threatened Greek Cypriots if they aided Israel in any future war against Lebanon. Many Turkish Cypriot academics warned that those risks were real.
Before the Israeli-Gaza war started, actually, there was rapprochement between Turkey and Egypt and Israel, which we believed was going to have an impact on exploration and exploitation of energy resources in the region. That would probably have a positive effect and create a positive agenda on sort of the Cyprus issue as well. But actually, the Gaza conflicts set back all these hopes. The recent rapprochement between the United States and the Greek Cypriot administration is one of concern for the North, basically, which involves actually rearmament of the Greek Cypriot side.
Do you think it's a move against Russia?
Of course, it's not only a move against Russia. I would say basically the United States is trying to sort of cover the Eastern Mediterranean region, not only vis-à-vis Russia, but actually vis-à-vis China as well. The aims of the United States intended to limit Russian position in the Eastern Mediterranean, but also intended to actually contain any Chinese expansion in the region, because China is actually investing in ports or economic facilities, which is going to be a big challenge in the longer, or is considered to be actually to be a big challenge in the longer term for the Western domination.
So how different do both sides in the island approach to the Israeli atrocities in Gaza?
The Turkish Cypriot approach, there's a clear follow-up on the Turkish policy and support for the Palestinian cause, right? I mean, there is a clear understanding that the 7th of October attacks by Hamas were problematic in nature, but the sort of answer given or response given by Israel has been beyond actually any humane dimension. The Greek Cypriot administration has historically been supportive of the Palestinian cause. But of course, when we look at the developments since 2010, for instance, after Arab uprising, we see a move actually away from maintaining good relations with the Arab countries as a cause at the expense of Israel in this sense, but also try to establish good relations with Israel as well in order to be able to actually move forward in the Eastern Mediterranean. That's one of the main dimensions. And when we look at actually the attempts of the Greek Cypriot administration to provide bases, to allow, for example, the use of British bases in the Israeli coast, then things are becoming more problematic.
So it drew a lot of criticism from both Türkiye and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, because we know that Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah has threatened to attack Cyprus. It were involved in a potential war between Israel and Lebanon. So the question is, how is this war, and it may be a potential war between these two nations, impacted security concerns both in the north and the south of the country?
We see concerns. I mean, previously we experienced fall of a Syrian missile in Cyprus, in the northern part of the island, a few years back. And here, when we consider the Hezbollah actually threat, we see that it's not actually taking place in a vacuum. They can do it. That's one of the main concerns. One of the concerns in the north and in Turkey, I mean, of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus administration, basically, is the fact that when Cyprus becomes a threat, there is a potential threat not only to the south, but the whole island. That's one of the main concerns.
For decades, there has been an uneasy peace on this island. Both Turkish and Greek Cypriots have tried to forge a lasting solution. But the differences have been too wide, the mistrust too deep. And with a war raging just next door in Gaza and fears of another brewing in neighboring Lebanon, many worry what was once called a frozen conflict could reignite on this island. The only way to prevent that will be reaching a lasting political deal. Thanks for joining me on this special edition of Strait Talk from the TRNC. I'm Ayse Suberker, and bye for now.